with one man's dream to entertain.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
And a goal to build the largest movie studio in the world.
I need to believe that something extraordinary is possible.
What followed throughout the years is a legacy of classic films.
In the name of God, do your duty.
With beloved stars.
And now, Aunt Ethel, I'd like you to meet Harvey.
I'm smart, I'm hardworking, and I'm not leaving here without a job.
I will be watching you.
Visionary directors.
Action.
No, Kelly Clarkson!
My name is Lieutenant Aldo Rain. I'm putting together a special team.
And breathtaking stories.
Houston, we have a problem.
You don't throw a whole life away just cause it's banged up a little.
We know what happens if we just sit here and do nothing.
This is Jason Bourne.
Where is he?
Right next to you.
Join us to commemorate 100 years of Universal Pictures. And the movies
Hercules, Hercules, Hercules!
that will stay with us forever.
Say hello to my little friend!
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
What did you say? Wait, what did you say? What did you say?
You're in.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Universal Pictures, celebrating a century of memories.
Hit it.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
We started preservation and restoration on the film analog level back in the early 90s. And we've been working on it ever since. And we have done either restoration or preservation of over 1,200 feature-length titles.
There's a selected group of titles that we're working on now that was selected by executives, film historians, that we can put away and preserve for generations to come.
When restoring films today, you want to maintain the creative artist look. Producer, the director, the cinematographer collaborated for a look in a movie. You don't want to lose that in restoration.
We're not altering the filmmaker's vision, but we are removing things that are detrimental to the experience, that may be distracting. Now, we have tools to be able to deal with that.
We're in scanning right now, and this is where it all starts. We have original camera negative loaded on the scanner. The scanner basically converts each and every film frame into a digital image at 3 times the actual resolution of the film.
Now that we're scanning off of the original negative at very, very high resolution and creating very high resolution digital images, it does things like make grain more apparent, Film grain is one of the things that make film look like it does. We certainly don't want grain to be non-existent and make everything look flat, but where it causes an objectionable or distracting aspect of enjoying the film, we do want to manage it.
And that I could shoot all of the blue jays I wanted. But to remember, it was a sin to kill a mockingbird.
Like, for example, To Kill a Mockingbird, they did a lot of optical push-ins. The camera is not moving in on a character.
I got something to say.
It's done optically in the lab. So that grain, instead of maintaining the same size, it gets bigger because it's being blown up. And so what we do is we average the grain so it matches the scene before and after the push-in. So the grain is not huge on the push-in. It's the same as the shot before and shot after.
Also, an original film element, like an original negative, can be subject to flicker.
Flicker, sometimes it's a fluctuation where the density gets darker, then brighter, almost like lights being turned on and off continuously.
Sometimes it's due to a shutter problem in the camera, light leaking through on the film edges, and sometimes it's just because the film has gotten old and has started to deteriorate.
There was a serious issue of flicker in All Quiet on the Western Front, but now there's software that can literally figure out the average of the light and dark frames and smooth out that flicker, and I'm really pleased with the results.
Also, we're smoothing out splice bumps and things like that where the film jitters, and when you're constantly watching the film moving and you can't concentrate on the image, you want that to be a more stable image.
What film stabilization does is it'll lock on to certain key points in the frame that you want to remain stable, and it'll track that through motion and basically hold it still. There is one scene in Out of Africa where Robert Redford and Meryl Streep are walking across the frame, and they're bobbing and weaving back and forth across the frame. So we have some pretty skilled operators who took some pinpoints, locked onto them, and tracked them as the camera was moving, and did a very good job of smoothing it out.
Brad, darling, I love you.
I know.
Color correction is one of the tools that we use to maintain the intent, the look of what the filmmaker wanted to achieve.
We've had the older titles where the color has started to fade. One of our supervisors is working on an old Rock Hudson title called Pillow Talk, and that has severe fading, but they were able to isolate the layers that had faded and bring it back up to its original levels.
There are times in the preservation process and in the restoration process where we run across a section of the original negative that may have scratches, tears. As we were working on To Kill a Mockingbird, we encountered a big tear directly over Gregory Peck. And there were several really challenging tears in Jaws. But today, we have some very powerful editing and restoration systems, and quite frankly, some very, very skilled artists that are able to digitally stitch those images back together and manipulate the images so that the damage is virtually undetectable. It's really amazing stuff.
Elizabeth!
Audio is a big part of the restoration process. We're removing things like ticks, crackle, hum, distortion whenever possible, and just trying to clean up the track to bring it back to the way it's really intended to be heard.
I am Dracula.
There's definitely a couple of examples of where we can do some audio restoration that brings out some of the soundtrack that wasn't really heard in the past.
Everything is in order, awaiting your signature.
Referring to some of our earlier titles, such as Dracula, where we had a lot of hiss throughout the entire feature. And to listen to a before and after track of something like that, you can actually hear a lot of things, whether it be just bumps of the coffin or opening and closing of doors and walking up and down stairs, little things like that that you couldn't really hear with all the hiss in the original soundtrack.
Listen to them. Children of the night.
I feel like myself and my colleagues were almost like caretakers. Back when these pictures were shot, it was more or less a theatrical presentation, and after that run was done, put it away and forget about it. But now we're actually preserving this for the ages.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
When you come in here and you look around at the size of the library and work on these great titles, it doesn't get any better.
We look at movies as a part of our heritage. We want to carry that heritage on to not only our children, but our grandchildren. And by investing in it and the restoration and the preservation of it, they're going to be able to watch 50 to 100 years from now.
What's exciting about this digital age, where we're able to restore these movies, we can bring these classic movies back to life in a way that makes them more vivid than even we remember them when we went to the cinema to see them.
The restoration of Jaws began with literally going through our records, our vault inventory, and understanding what elements were at our disposal.
Universal has always had a strong commitment to preservation, restoration, and their film heritage. In the library, in the vaults that we have here, we've got over 1 million pieces of material. Around the world, we've got over 3 million pieces of material. On Jaws, there's about 2,700 pieces of this all together. When we started on the Jaws project, we determined that luckily we were able to use the original negative, and that was our primary source.
Working with a negative is always going to get you better resolution, but passes on the element add up.
Hold up! What? The negative of Jaws was pretty crummy. It was pretty bad.
The first thing we want to do when we have that element, we want to make sure that all the perforations are correct, we don't have any tears.
Many sections had vertical scratches running through significant portions of the film.
Come on in the water!
We felt the best result was to do a wet gate scan.
There is special liquid that would take all the scratches and basically erase them.
As the film is on the scanner, it's literally passed through this liquid bath so that those scratches are not visible to the light that's passing through that film.
With Jaws, the colorists need to have as much information to work with as possible. We're checking to make sure that the full range of the image is there. And that's really what the scanning process is about.
Once we had the digital scans, we went ahead and dealt with issues such as film movement and dirt. We have very high-end graphics and editing systems. These tools enable us to take the digital data that results from the film scan and manipulate those pixels in many different ways.
With Jaws, each damage was different. You just would have to look at it and see if you could take a frame after the damage or a frame before. Part of a good frame here, a good frame there, composite it together and digitally paint it out. You could spend 3 to 4 hours on one frame.
Chief Brody!
When you're working with an original negative, across some of the cuts, you see tremendous differences in color, brightness, contrast. Our colorists do a great job at matching all those shots.
We had a particular issue inside the cabin. Well, those windows didn't match cut to cut.
I had to balance out the view from the inside, which changed. The viewer should not be distracted because the levels of light are changing.
Nothing materially was changed about the film, but the image on a really, really good high-def TV screen looks better than the film looked when first projected in 1975.
Hey, see that? Got the creme de la creme. Right there. Mary Ellen Moffat. She broke my heart.
The audio side on Jaws, our project was to build a 7.1 upmix.
It's an iconic film. We're very sensitive to the integrity of the original mix.
At that time, it was an analog process. They recorded out 35 millimeter mag.
We're taking all that sound information and adding additional channels to it.
That process consists of taking the original dialogue, music, and effects mono tracks and realizing that we're now going to place it in a 7.1 audio codec. To do that, you're going to have to go and get backgrounds and sound effects that can get you to move left to right on the screen. Once you've got all those elements picked out, then you've got the music.
There's certainly a number of things about Jaws that are unique. A lot of that on the audio side goes back to those first two notes in John Williams' score. They set the tone for the shark. Throughout the film, you don't necessarily see the shark, but you hear those notes, and so the sound really drives that film. In some places, you don't hear anything. You're underwater, and there's nothing but score. That is what lets you know that something's about to happen.
Hey, he's taking it, he's taking it, he's taking it. Hey, hey, go, 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 go.
Oh, boys, I think he's come back for his noon feeding.
The sound is better than we've ever heard it before.
Our whole intent is to be able to fulfill the audio experience in that 7.1 remix.
They put kind of a dinosaur sound when the shark is sinking at the end of the film, and you're going to hear it better. It doesn't overpower anything, it's just going to be a little more audible to the ear now.
The outputs of this process are both film and digital. We are storing high-resolution digital files as well as recording a new negative. We do both because digital files, while they are convenient to work with and they allow us a wide range of options, for an archival means, we still want a piece of film to put away.
This is our cultural heritage. It is very important to preserve the physical film, the 35 millimeter film and the negative.
Film is a known commodity. We can put that on a shelf and store it in the proper conditions, and that thing will last 100 years plus.
It's the movie that people remember. It's just really crystal clear and very vivid.
I've quite honestly never seen this level of commitment.
We are very passionate about Jaws and using the tools that we have that allows us to get the best possible restoration.
There's something else out there. What is it? It was a shark.
Originally in the theater, you might have seen film movement as the print wore out, or you might have seen dirt as the print got dirtier. That today, with a digital file cleaned up, it looks like that on Play 1 and Play 1000.
The new Jaws is still the Jaws. It's enhanced by the HD Blu-ray experience.
People, like what they see.
It looks amazing.
This shark, swallow you whole, but I'll catch him and kill him. For that you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
The wonderful thing about this restoration is what you get is something that, both with sight and sound, is something that I didn't even get when I made the movie. What makes films timeless are audiences. They're the custodians of these these visual memories, these stories. And by holding on to a film or a fragment from a film, that marks a time in your life that will always be a part of your life. And that's why films are kind of like signposts, they're markers, throughout people's lives. And if anything makes movies timeless, it's how profound those signposts and markers are to each individual.
This show really has everything that a movie lover could ever want. 100 years of the greatest films that Universal Studios has ever made. An incredible musical score, powerful narration by Academy Award winner Morgan Freeman, incredible state-of-the-art special effects technology that will all combine together to have our guests reliving some of the most powerful and emotional experiences in film that they've ever had.
The Universal logo has been around for so long, and it's so iconic. My task was to take on this great theme and do something new with it. We want to utilize the classic melody that we all know and bring it into the 21st century, but still really be respectful of what Jerry Goldsmith had originally written.
Okay, let's roll it.
I want it to be a celebration of all the great movies Universal's done over the years. Connecting the past with the present, the main line that we've always heard in the horns, that's still there, but you have the movement of the music underneath it. I had a few sneak peeks at the visuals that were being worked on. The globe coming in and the letters spinning around and seeing the cityscapes. That was a huge influence for me, to add choir. There's also kind of a sparkly, shimmery type of thing throughout the piece that I've done with violins. And it gives it kind of the magic feel. And at the end of the piece, I have a whole drum cadence.
The thing that I think people really latch onto is the bass drum there.
I use drums from around the world, like djembes and African drums. And I thought that was kind of a nice way to bring that idea of Universal Pictures being global.
Very nice. Give me chills.
It's pretty incredible that every time I now see a film by Universal, I'll hear the logo music that I'd conducted. It cues you in to say, okay, put away the phone, stop eating your popcorn for a split second, pay attention. It's a huge honor.